All right, let's get ready to take a deep dive into a pretty fascinating topic, artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
And it's funny, AGI, it's one of those things everyone's kind of heard of, but most people don't really get what it means, like what it really means.
Yeah, it's not just, you know, like Siri ordering you a pizza or some algorithm recommending a new show. We're talking machines that can think and learn and solve problems like humans
Yeah.
across any field you can imagine. Pretty mind-blowing, right?
Absolutely. And that's what makes this article by Curt Robbins so interesting. He's this senior technical writer who's worked with like a who's who of companies, FedEx, Microsoft, even Wells Fargo.
Yeah, so he's got a real-world perspective on how this stuff could play out.
And he breaks down what AGI is, and maybe more importantly, what it isn't, into three core abilities. You've got adaptive learning, so like truly learning from experience the way we do.
Then there's contextual understanding, so not just spitting out data, but actually grasping the meaning behind it, like the nuances of a situation.
Right. And the big one, creative problem solving. So not just following instructions, but coming up with totally new solutions.
I gotta admit, even for me, all this is still kind of theoretical.
Sure, I get that, but think about it this way. So right now you've got AI that can like write basic documentation for software, right?
Right.
Agent I could take that and not only write the manuals, but rewrite them based on like real-time user feedback, troubleshoot problems on the fly, even redesign the software itself based on what it's learning. Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's way beyond anything we're seeing now, but
The timeline is a big debate, even among the experts. The optimists out there, they're pointing to stuff like Google's Gemini and OpenAI's GPT-4.
those are some pretty powerful AI systems already.
Exactly. And they're saying these are like the building blocks to AGI. Plus, you've got the fact that computing power and the amount of data we have are just exploding. So who knows how fast things could move.
Okay, but on the flip side, you've got folks who are saying, hold on, the human brain is insanely complex. We barely even understand consciousness or emotion. So replicating that in a machine, it could take centuries, or maybe it's just plain impossible.
You're right. That's the skeptic's view. And it's a valid one, but Robbins throws another idea out there. It's what he calls hybrid approaches to AI. So like combining the kind of logic-based systems we have now with the learning power of neural networks, like trying to bridge this gap between a chess master who follows strict rules.
And like a jazz musician who just improvises based on feeling.
Exactly. Maybe that's the key to cracking the AGI code. But, whenever you start talking about superintelligence, you can't avoid the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, the whole robots taking over the world scenario. I mean, is that a legitimate concern or is it just Hollywood hype?
Well, Robbins actually calls it existential risk, and it's something that some pretty smart people are worried about. The idea that AGI could become so intelligent that it basically acts against human interests, not necessarily out of malice, but just because its goals and ours diverge.
So it's not necessarily evil AI, just AI that doesn't care about us one way or another. Chilling thought, but what about something a little more immediate, like the impact on jobs, especially in fields like tech writing and IT? Robbins talks a lot about that.
Yeah, he does, and it's understandable, right? I mean, if AGI can write documentation, troubleshoot problems, even design systems, where does that leave all of us?
Exactly, it's kind of unsettling.
It's definitely complex, and Robbins is careful to say it's not like everyone in those fields will be instantly out of work. But there will be big shifts, for sure. Think about it, AI taking over the tedious tasks, drafting basic documentation, routine system administration. It could free up humans to focus on more strategic and creative stuff.
Okay, so basically we need to upskill and adapt to work alongside these AI systems.
Exactly. And Robbins stresses that it's not just about technical skills either. He talks about things like, prompt engineering, basically learning how to communicate effectively with AI to get it to do what you need.
So it's almost like we need a whole new language to talk to these advanced systems.
Yeah.
But honestly, doesn't this all sound a bit privileged? Like, upskilling is great if you have the time and resources, but what about folks who are already struggling to keep up with the pace of change?
That's a valid point, and it brings up the whole societal impact of AGI, which goes way beyond just individual job security. On one hand, you've got the potential for amazing things like unprecedented innovation, economic growth, maybe even solutions to huge problems like climate change.
Yep, cures for diseases, personalized education, all that stuff. But on the other hand, if the benefits of AGI are only for a few, it could make inequality even worse. Plus, there's the whole privacy issue.
Right, I mean, just look at the concerns we have about data misuse with AI. Imagine that amplified with AGI systems that can access and process massive amounts of personal information.
It's a little scary, to be honest. So, are we just at the mercy of this technology, or is there something we can do to steer it in a more positive direction.
Robbins is a big believer in being proactive, not just reactive. He says we need clear guidelines and regulations around AGI development, focusing on transparency and accountability.
Yeah, transparency is key. If these systems are making decisions that affect our lives, we need to understand how they're doing it, what data they're using, what biases they might have.
Exactly. It's not just about preventing harm, but ensuring that AGI is used to create a more just and equitable society. And that takes a conscious effort from all of us. So, we've talked a lot about the big picture stuff, but I know people are probably wondering, like, what does this actually mean for me? And Robbins gets into that, especially for, technical writers and IT folks.
Yeah, let's get down to brass tacks, starting with, well, my people, the writers. What's the potential upside of AGI for us word nerds?
Okay, so picture this. You've got all your research, style guides, user feedback, the whole 9 yards, and you feed it to the AGI. And it spits out like a first draft of your manual. You can then go in, refine the narrative, focus on clarity, flow, make it a truly great document, not just informative.
Oh, that sounds amazing. More time for brainstorming, less time, like, wrestling with formatting.
But, okay, doesn't this also bring up the question of creative control? Like, if AI is doing the heavy lifting, do we as writers even matter anymore?
It's a good question, and Robbins acknowledges that potential loss of control. Can an AI really capture, like, the nuances of your writing style, the way you connect with readers? It's a deep question.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if the role of a technical writer becomes less about creating content and more about, like, curating it, guiding the AI, and adding that human touch it can't replicate.
That's an interesting thought. It's not replacement, it's partnership, using AI to boost what we do. And that same idea applies to IT too. Robbins talks about AGI being a total game changer for problem solving. Okay, so instead of spending hours on some obscure bug, we could have AI systems that just, like, diagnose and fix things automatically.
Exactly. No more all-nighters because of a server crash. AGI could handle those routine tasks, free up IT pros to do the bigger picture stuff, optimizing systems, developing new solutions.
But isn't there a risk that those routine tasks are how people get into IT in the first place? Like, if those entry-level jobs disappear, how do we ensure people can still get those advanced roles?
That's a great point. It's not enough to just say upskill. We need to make sure those opportunities are accessible. And that ties into the bigger societal impact of AGI, which Robbins spends a lot of time on.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits, more productivity, innovation, maybe solving global issues. But let's be real. What are the downsides? What do we need to be wary of?
One big concern is inequality, right? If only a few people benefit from AGI, it could make existing wealth gaps even worse. We need to be deliberate about making sure everyone has access to the tech and its benefits.
And what about privacy? We're already worried about data misuse with AI. Imagine that with AGI systems that are even more powerful, handling tons of personal data.
You're hitting on a crucial point. The more powerful AI gets, the more important it is to have ethical frameworks, guidelines, regulations. We got to be thinking about accountability, transparency, bias, all of it.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about the values that drive how we use it.
Robbins has some solid advice. Individually, he says upskilling is key, but not just tech skills. He talks about the uniquely human stuff, creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence. Those are the things that'll be valuable even when AI can do a lot of what we do now.
So it's not about being more like machines, but more human.
Exactly, and that means changing how we think about AGI, not as a threat, but as a tool, a partner that can help us do amazing things.
I like that. AI as a partner, not a replacement. And it sounds like part of being prepared is being proactive, not just waiting for things to happen. We need to be part of the conversation, advocating for ethical development, making sure AGI is used responsibly.
Absolutely. We can't just sit back and be passive. The future of AGI is something we can shape, and the choices we make now matter a lot.
It's really interesting how Robbins, with all his experience working at those big companies, FedEx, Microsoft, Nationwide Insurance, he brings this really grounded perspective to this AGI thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just some abstract concept for him. He's actually been there, seen how technology can totally shake up industries, create opportunities, but also, create real problems for people trying to keep up.
It makes me think about all the anxiety around AGI taking jobs. Robbins doesn't sugarcoat it, but he also talks a lot about adaptation, not just for people, but companies, even whole industries.
Absolutely. And he doesn't just say, oh, everyone learn to code and call it a day. He talks about building this culture of constant learning where companies actually invest in their employees, help them get the skills they need for this AGI world.
That makes sense. It can't just be on individuals to figure it all out.
Yeah.
But also curious about like the ethical side of all this. How do we make sure AGI is used to benefit everyone, not just a select few?
That's the big question, right? And it's something Robbins really digs into in his article. He talks about the need for like clear rules, regulations around AGI development. Transparency and accountability are huge.
Yeah, transparency is so important. If these systems are making decisions that affect us, we need to know how they're doing it, what data they're using, even what biases they might have.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding harm, it's about using AGI to make a more just and equitable society, thinking about access, affordability, how marginalized communities are impacted.
It feels like we're at this point where things could go either way, you know? Amazing progress or some serious problems.
Hmm.
And it's not just about the technology, it's about the choices we make, what we value, the future we want.
Right, that's the core of it. And I think that's what Robbins is pushing us to consider. He's not giving easy answers, but he's raising these really important questions that we need to face as individuals, as industries, as a whole society.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into AGI, I'm left with this feeling of like excitement, but also caution. AGI has the potential to make things so much better, but we have to be aware of the risks and make sure we're guiding it in the right direction.
Well said. And I think the best way to do that is to stay engaged, keep learning, keep asking questions, be part of the conversation about how we shape this future together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you some new things to think about, maybe even sparked some good debates. And remember, the future of AGI isn't set in stone. It's up to us to decide what role it plays in our lives and the world we create.